Hello and welcome to Find Out Nation. I am one of your hosts, Jamie.
And I'm one of your hosts, Nicole.
And first of all, I am not in my telephone operator garb. Right.
You're not.
I feel like we are stepping it up again. I got my microphone back. I got a new docking station. I'm in my overalls.
You look so cute in your overalls.
These are Swoveralls. For anyone who doesn't know, swoveralls.com. They are sweatpants fabric overalls. So they're the best.
That's amazing.
I know they are. Like, we should get a sponsorship.
We should.
I know. We have multiple pairs in this household. I bought them for Mark and myself for Christmas, and they are fantastic. So anyway,
yeah,
we have a lot to cover. This has been a busy week. To be honest, Nicole has been on top of shit, knows everything. And we even have a guest contributor today for a story that neither Nicole and I had heard about. But before we get started, Nicole, we passed the 600-day mark.
We did.
How many days into the Trump administration at this point are we?
63, which I think is why last week was as unhinged as it was.
It really was fucking unhinged. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We are at 2 months into a 4-year presidency. Ooh, that's a hard pill to swallow. So yes. I am having a glass of wine with my podcast tonight. So if you hear me acting a fool, tonight is the wine podcast. So you're welcome. Yes, I'm sorry, but sometimes mama needs to sleep, and this is the answer. So that is what it is. Yeah. Okay. So how many days until we get to at least try and take back over some of these critical systems? Midterms.
588.
I was really hoping that'd be like 550.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Yeah, no.
Okay, so Mark jokes because I have such a fluid relationship with time that I don't entirely keep dates and times straight. Like if I said the other day, that could be like 5 years ago, or it could be like 5 hours ago. You never know. But I appreciate you keeping me like on the straight and narrow. These are the dates and times that we're at. Okay, let's start with Columbia University. Since we ended last week's podcast on our educational system, I feel like we should start this week's on the educational system. So Columbia University sounds like it's losing its $400 million in federal funding because of issues with how they're treating people with their anti-Semitic complaints and problems. I did hear that I know. I heard we have like that the government is saying, oh, it's a good first step to correcting these things. But the one article that I read is that we're really at a watershed moment where, we are declaring war against our basic higher educational systems, right? Like we know education's being dismantled. We'll talk about like the actual Department of Education in a minute, but with Columbia University, it's like, are we going to start capitulating to the people who absolutely fundamentally detest higher education? Did Donald Trump ever go to college? I have no idea. Do you know?
Yeah, let me Google really. Yeah, you Google really quick because I do think that he did Wharton.
Hopefully he didn't go to Donald Trump College because,
I think he went to Wharton Business School for some reason.
He went to Fordham University.
Fordham. Okay.
And 2 years later, he transferred to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, which we'll talk about Pennsylvania in a second.
Talk about that.
And he graduated in May 1968 with a Bachelor of Science in Economics. I'm shocked.
Which
really
is hilarious.
Shocked. Yeah.
He learned absolutely
nothing. And he clearly.
This shit with Columbia University is infuriating to me because the whole thing of we're saying that it's because of anti-Semitism. It's not, because
it's because of
the university just exactly. It's because they're protesting, because they also had to agree to ban students from wearing masks at protests, hire 36 new campus security officers, and appoint a new provost to oversee the Department of Middle East, South Asian, and African Studies. And they rolled the fuck over. They didn't even try to fight it.
So here's my thing. if there are legitimate students that are claiming to feel, one student at Columbia University told CNN that their policy changes have created a climate of fear. We're going to be walking around campus knowing that any moment really we could be harassed by one of these new security officers they're hiring. So that's my thing, is like, they're not making it safer. You know, originally students had the right to protest. They had the right to respond to protests as long as they were within the laws. They could, you know, respond to protests the way that they wanted to. Were there legitimate students that probably were harassed, or at least were claiming harassment so that they could try and get the protests to stop? I'm sure there were. And do I feel like in school, like in general, students should have the opportunity to actually live without fear of, like, you know, getting yelled at? Like, I know if I go into downtown Kansas City and I see that preacher on the corner, he's going to yell at me. Like, he's the guy that stands there with the microphone and he yells at me. Like, I know that. I'm uncomfortable. I hate that fucking interaction. I don't like being there. But at the end of the day, like, it's his right to say what he wants. It's his right. We have free speech in this country. We have the right to peacefully protest as long as it's peaceful. If they haven't broken any, like, if you want to arrest somebody, arrest somebody. But if they haven't broken any laws, like, what are we talking about here? Because what it feels like to me is suppressing the ability to protest.
Yeah, 100%.
I know.
And so, okay, so they can't protest on campus, but if I go right across the street, what happens then?
Right. What are you going to do? Well, then if by chance you had a green card that you've had for 50 goddamn years or whatever, we're now all of a sudden going to manufacture the fact that you are part of some Palestinian protest group that you didn't disclose on your visa 50 years ago when you weren't part of the group, but now you are. And so we're going to revoke your visa and detain you for 3 weeks and try and expel you from the country without ever, like, going through due process or anything.
With no due process.
That's what we do. Like, this is seriously out of a dystopian. This is seriously out of a fascism dictatorship handbook. And I've said this, I swear to God, every single week that we've had this podcast. Where are my don't tread on me people? Where are my, like, super, you know, patriotic, are you fucking kidding me? I defend the Constitution people. Because right to protest, right to assemble, right to free speech is right fucking there. It's right there. Are you kidding me? You know? Anyway, so this is a watershed moment. Is Columbia University going to just do everything, whatever the government wants them to do? Meaning, we're going to stop allowing protests. We're going to stop allowing people to, you know, speak their mind and assemble on campus. Or are they going to say, absolutely not. We don't need your $400 million. Go fuck yourself. What do you think?
No, I think they're going to, they're going to roll over. 100%.
I would agree.
Roll over.
Because they already have.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so there was a interview with, I can't remember who it was, but it was with, of course, one of my favorites, which is Jon Stewart. And he was talking about how there are two primary factors that influence the United States of America. One side is democracy, and the other side is capitalism. The one that is most predictable is capitalism, because money always wins. No, whatever the conflict is here, money always wins. And so when you look at, like, the Trump being able to be elected, it all came down to people who believed that Trump was going to make the money, that they were going to become wealthy, that they were, like, this is the reality. And so it's so disheartening to see higher educational institutions that I have respected. Like, at this point, if my kid came to me and was like, I want to go Ivy League, I want to go, or, you know, whatever, I'd be like, well, let's see how they respond to this Trump stuff before we make a decision. Because honestly, like, I'm not paying for you to go to Columbia University. That's for fucking sure. Absolutely not. If they are going to roll over and take away your rights, sorry. But if the Constitution doesn't apply to you being at the University of Columbia, then you don't get to go there. I'm not willing to make that. Like, we could go full Handmaid's Tale on Columbia University at this point. And I'm like, nope, we're not going to do that. Your constitutional rights stand no matter what. I would rather send you to, you know, Maple Woods. I'd rather send you to my community college, who is just fighting for their right to party. Okay. I am just super, I'm with you. I know this is a big deal for you because you have a kid that is at a university. Of course, it's a big deal for me because I have a kid that is going into university, not to mention the fact that those are 3 degrees that I have. So I believe in higher education. Like, I believe that higher education is fucking important, especially for youth. And so this is really, really depressing.
Well, and like the shit they did with, go ahead. Penn State.
Okay. So that's what I was going to say. So let's move on to Penn State because I hadn't heard about this. You had read about this. So explain what's going on with Penn State.
So the AP reported on the 9th. Awesome. I love it. Okay. So the AP reported on the 19th that the administration had suspended approximately $175 million in federal funding to Penn State over the participation of a transgender athlete in its swimming program. A Penn spokesperson stated the school had not received any notification or details of the action before the announcement was made.
Shocking.
Yep. They also stated that they have always followed all NCAA and Ivy League policies regarding student participation on athletic teams. The investigation opened by the Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights focuses on Leah Thomas, who swam on the women's swim team and was the first openly transgender athlete to win a D1 title in 2022. Penn State has not had a transgender athlete on any of their teams for several years. So they've gone back at least 2 years to decide to revoke $175 million in federal funding, which is why when the Penn State spokesperson is saying, we follow NCAA policies, in 2022, the policy was acceptable for there to be a transgender woman on the swim team.
That's right.
If that's not the policy now, they're following the policy now because they don't have any transgender athletes on their teams. But the same agency has also opened reviews of San Jose State's volleyball team and Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association to pull back their federal funding.
Have you seen images of Leah Thomas? Like, I get the idea of the fact, but like, I mean, my whole issue is when you go through transgender surgery, when you take hormones, every test that comes out, I right now could be a transgender female and you would never fucking know. Right. I have giant feet and man-sized hands. You would have no idea. Like, you would have no idea. You see pictures of Leah Thomas and you have, in my mind, maybe idea. Someone else, but you have no idea. And so it's just like, what do you, and really we're going to institute a policy now that we're retroacting 3 years ago?
That's my thing. Like, so it doesn't have to even be reason. So then where do we draw the line? I mean, shit, let's go back to 2000 for some stuff if that's what we want to do. Let's just go back 25 fucking years.
Well, then
where do we draw the line?
That's right. I'm going to take my abortion rules from back with when Roe v. Wade was, right? Like, hey, if we get to pick and choose when we're going to enforce rules, then I am sorry. Like, I'm going back. Although, in all fairness, the state of Missouri did like ease up on their abortion rules. So I'm not sad about the outcome there, but I still am like, okay, federally, because shit's going down. Okay, but back to the topic in hand. I absolutely of course I have a problem with the debate of transgender students competing, athletes competing. I think you and I both said that, like, I would love to have a conversation outside of just our normal weekly podcast, because to me, it is hard to make the distinction of, I see where people come from that, okay, men have this biological advantage or or women like gymnastics have this biological and this biological enhancement. And so it makes them better at certain sports. I get it. I understand that. I also understand the fact that, like, there's only so much that gender reassignment surgeries and hormones can do to alter a person. But again, as a born woman, I have hands that are bigger than most of the men I know. I have feet that are most bigger, and I have balls that are at least bigger than Donald Trump. So I'm just saying that, like, at the end of the day, like, we all are born with different pluses and minuses. So this idea of like having a problem with transgender athletes really rubs me a certain way. So anyway, we'll have that conversation at some point, but literally taking away 100, what did you say? $175 million?
$175 million. And not notifying the school before they did it.
That's right. And then making it because they retroactively had a student that competed for them that was transgender is absolutely fucking asinine.
Yeah.
Speaking of asinine,
yes.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead, because my comment will fit in with this. Yeah, you're fine.
Can we talk about the Department of Education?
Yes, please.
Okay. Is the goal to just make people dumber?
No, that's literally what I was getting ready to say. And I'm like, nope, this comment will go right along into the next. Because what's the best way to control your population but to make sure that they're not educated?
100%.
The
1000%.
dumber your populace is, they won't fight you on things. They'll just be sheep. If you don't teach them how to critically think, if you don't, which is what higher education does, if you don't give them an opportunity to be around, and not even that the federal government has to give these opportunities, but when you're around people that are not like you.
Yeah.
Even for me, around people that you learn from other people's lived experiences, and that forms your worldview.
100%. Not to mention the fact that like the education system has shown AJ how to research, how to come up with a conclusion, how to read two sides of to your point, this critical thinking skills that like AJ's excited. He wants to take debate because he wants to be able to take one topic and look at both sides of it and say, okay, what's the pro? What's the con? We were reading a news article the other day. What was it about? It doesn't matter. Anyway. And I was like, okay, I'm going to read you this news article. Oh, it was this United Airlines guy, the Jewish Hasidic guy who was in the bathroom with constipation for 30 minutes until the pilot came in and drug him out naked in front of, there's a whole thing. Anyway.
Oh my God.
But like, we're only hearing the side of the person that got drugged out. We haven't heard the side of the airline because it's in litigation. Like, the reality always lives somewhere in the middle, right? And so like using your critical thinking skills, saying like, you're hearing this side of the story, but there's not like, all of that are things you learn through higher education. 100%. This is why I 100% believe in but in higher education, because I know that like, this is where you learn things like that. It is so critical.
And my kid has gotten so fucking good at it, and it's so infuriating when she does that shit to me. But she has got, she's gotten very, very good at it in her 4 years at her university. And so this is how you
control.
This is how you control your populace, is by not letting them be educated.
100%. And I think what really is painful in all of this is the fact that like, we're doing it specifically just because we know. I mean, you look at the poor, like we're using the stats of our poorest and most vulnerable citizens to perpetuate the problems for our most vulnerable citizens. So we got word this week, Department of Education is no more. Rest in peace, Department of Education. Okay, Linda McMahon's getting rid of the department. Great, good on her. So I have a family member, a distant family member who is a principal at a school. And she posted something the other day that's like, hey, listen, the federal government doesn't educate your kids. The state does. They're the ones that have the board that approves everyone. They're the ones that are writing curriculums, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. She's not wrong. I get it.
Right.
But here's the things that I do know that the federal government ensures. My kid has a 504 because he's dyslexic. That comes from the federal government. That is supposed to go with him for the rest of his like educational career. And it's supposed to follow him no matter where he goes in this country. That will no longer exist. So if he decides to go to a school outside of Missouri, he's SOL. Those types of things, those types of ensuring that it's not just the basic white male student gets an education that's good for them, but it's making so, again, our most liberal and our most populous states are going to be the ones that have the best educations. And all of these rural areas like Mississippi and Georgia and Louisiana, who already have terrible education.
Yep.
It's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse.
I mean, yeah, the public school budget is 14% made up of federal dollars.
Yeah.
But it also, like, so the agency is key in overseeing civil rights enforcement, regardless, from K through higher education. But the money also, I didn't know this. I mean, I did kind of know this, but I didn't know this is what it was called. So the money often supports supplemental programs for vulnerable students, such as the McKinney-Vento program for homeless students, or Title I for low-income schools.
That's right. Like your free lunches.
So you're going to now but everything's going to be fine because we're saying that we're just going to give the K through 12 schools grants.
Yeah.
Then if we're giving them, so a grant is not a loan, so we assume it doesn't have to be paid back.
Yeah.
And my grant is being given off of taxpayer dollars. Why don't we just have a Department of Education? I don't understand.
Hello. What is the point of this?
I don't understand what we're, what are we accomplishing here?
Right. We're not accomplishing anything. We know we're not accomplishing anything. Like at the end of the day, the whole point of now, don't get me wrong. You know that there was, what was that show that was like Jeff Daniels, the newsroom?
I never watched it, but I've seen clips.
The clip everyone watches is like, if you think America is the best, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yes. Everyone knows this. And if you don't know it, go look up the newsroom speech from the first season. It's all over fucking YouTube. And one of the things he talks about is how the public education system, we rank like the worst in the world or really fucking low on public education. And he's not wrong. Like we know public education. Now, I think you and I both. So part of the problem that we've had is that schools that have high personal property taxes have a bunch of money that they can spend on good schools, good supplies, good teachers, good resources, all those kinds of things. You and I have been blessed enough that we make enough money that we live in those school districts that have that
choice.
That's right. We have the choice to send our kid. And to your point, when Mark and I lived in South KC and weren't in a great school district, we had enough money. If we wanted to send him to public school, we could have. How many Trump fucking voters don't have those types of scenarios? And you know what I'm saying? Like, because if your area doesn't have any money and your area isn't making any personal property taxes, because all of your, you live in a trailer park in the middle of nowhere, you don't have any money to spend on schools. And you can't send your kid 45 minutes away to a school that does have money. So
because they won't bus your child.
Right. You're the one that is not going to have a good educational system. Like, sorry, but the way schools fund money is through personal property taxes that are then invested in the areas that those are collected in.
Yes.
So
and
that's my thing.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No. And so two things on that. One, it's infuriating to me because this is what happens when we have passed laws based on your zip code.
Yes.
This is how this all comes back to redlining and the unhoused and all the things. But also, there's school districts 30 minutes north of me who are in school 4 days a week already.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the teachers, they don't get enough of the funding, and they're poor rural school districts. That shit is only so this whole idea of school vouchers, we're going to give you a tax rebate to put in an account. There's no
private fucking schools in the middle of bumfuck Missouri.
Nope. But we're going to give you tax rebates so that you can put this money in an account to pay for your child to go to whatever school district you want. Okay, but see, I'm working 2 jobs and I can't drive my kid to a school, to your point, 30 minutes away because that's the closest good school they have.
Right. Exactly correct. So I did read that the NAACP and like the NEA filed a lawsuit against Trump to not be able. And so this points to a different question of the Department of Education was created by Congress, right? By the Senate.
Yeah. And it was, because it was a big push by Johnson. during the Civil Rights Act. Yes.
So at the end of the day, in order to dismantle it and defund it, the question becomes like, who has to vote on being able to get rid of the Department of Education? So even besides the problems with dismantling the Department of Education, because at the end of the day, so you and I have said this over and over again. I live in an area, I make enough money, at least right now. I might have to like take a bunch of people in that can't afford it anymore. And then at that point I'm fucked. But at the end of the day, like it's not going to impact me that much. Yes, AJ's dyslexia, his 504 is going to be affected. I'm positive. But at the end of the day, like he's going to continue to get his education, and he's got fabulous teachers in a fabulous school district, which I love. But I'm like, okay, that's great for me. But for everyone else, like you voted for this and you live in those areas. Are you prepared? Are you prepared for this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Do you realize what's going to happen? Like there will be no school. Like, and that's not being hysterical. That's just stating a fact.
To your point, there's not going to be schools in areas that can't afford them anymore. Like that's stating a fact, to your point. And to your point, like we focus so much of our statewide lawmaking on because our state representatives, the ones that I vote for, are like, okay, if my constituents are paying $10 million in property taxes, they should get $10 million worth of benefits.
Yeah.
Right. So that's my thing, is that regardless if you're talking about on the national level or even on a state level or even on a city level or a county level, like people that spend the money want to see those rewards coming back to them. Anyway, I'll be interested to see what happens. Of all the departments that have been dismantled, I will say the Department of Education is probably lowest on my priority list. And I say that because at the end of the day, again, I just don't feel that their contribution to everyday education is as big as others have made it sound. But for me, the biggest question comes into play of, okay, does Donald Trump have the right to just executive order? Everything is gone. That's going to be the big fight that we're going to see, right? Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, I'm much more concerned about our higher education, which obviously...
this really fucks with. Yeah, because they get 1.6 trillion, and they oversee 1.6 trillion dollars in federal student loans, which now my question is, do we have to pay her student loans? Because when she took that loan out, it was with the Department of Education, which is no longer a thing. They're going to put those under the Small Business Administration, but we didn't sign an agreement letter with the Small Business Administration. So go fuck yourself. How does that work?
Yeah, don't you wish? I do.
Isn't it just like my mortgage loan where you just buy it and sell it and I don't have any fucking control over it now?
Exactly. But to your point, like this is impacting things like income-driven repayment options and being able to teach in poor communities to have parts of your loans like reversed.
Forgiven. Yeah.
And I don't understand why they're trying to reverse all these things. Like I get like I get so I heard a lot from my Republican friend, my one friend that's Republican. I heard a lot from those people that are like, oh my God, you know, they shouldn't just not be able to pay anymore. That shit shouldn't just be forgiven. Da, 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 da. I heard a lot of that. Okay, that is what it is. But at the end of the day, like income-driven repayment plans are just, hey, you are only making $25,000 coming out of college, so you only have to pay 5% of your income towards your student loans. As you make more money, you have to pay a higher percentage, and you have to pay more money towards those loans. Like that's just reasonable business. Like, well, you will get more repayments if you have that type of structure and that type of flexibility. Why wouldn't you want that?
Well, and also, so two things for me on that. One is, and they also incentivize, to the point you made a while ago, if you went into public education and you were willing to teach in a low-income school after like 10 years or something like that, they forgave the rest of your federal student loans. Same way with healthcare. If you were willing to go into healthcare and work in a impoverished hospital somewhere where you're not making shit, after 10 years, they forgave your loans. But also, to the point you just made about like, I'm making $25,000 a year, it's a 5% payback. They do the same shit with your child support. They're only allowed to take a certain percentage of your discretionary income. Why should our student loans be any different?
Well, you know why it is. Because Republican lawmakers are affected by child support laws. Whereas most of them went to college in the 50s when college cost a pack of gum and a Band-Aid.
When they could work a full-time job and pay off their pay as they go.
Student loans in 2 years. And so they're like, oh, student loans are easy to pay off. Fucking idiots. Okay.
Yeah.
Whew. We're going to move on.
Okay.
Okay, let's talk about the FTC.
Oh, okay. Okay,
So this week, let's just in general talk about Donald Trump's firings, hirings, rehirings, trying not to rehire. Like if I had a boss,
schizophrenia.
Yes, the schizophrenia, the bipolar feelings that I feel from just hiring and firing. So I actually loved when you brought up the FTC filings and I was like, oh, I read this article. I kind of loved it because there was a West Wing episode where they talked about, it has always been that you hire 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats. And that's how it is. And now it's like when you were talking, it's like a 5-person committee.
5-member panel. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And you have like 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and then 1 tiebreaker, which I get. But it's like a courtesy, right? That at least 2 of the people are of the opposite party. That's just and again, there was a whole West Wing episode where like one of them suggested that they don't hire Republicans and they were like, oh no, that would be terrible. And they, at the end of the day, they finally decided, no, we're going to hire Democrats. Like they were going to hire Republicans because of course the Bartlett administration with Democrats. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I was like, oh, I remember this. Like this is a thing in the government that like, at least you bring together party members on both sides to try and manage this department, even if you give the ultimate power to one party over the other. Like you still bring 2 sides of reason, which we have seen over and over and over again in this administration. There is no wanting to work with you. Like, anyway, so I want you to explain the FTC firings, just because I have rambled on for like 2 minutes about it. So you talk about it for a while.
Okay, so the AP reported last week on the 18th that Trump fired the 2 Democratic members of the FTC, intensifying his effort to exert his administration's control over the independent agency. Both members have stated that they will sue to their dismissals due to their dismissals being illegal. The FTC is a 5-member group, and by freeing up 2 spots, it gives Trump the ability to appoint 2 new loyal commissioners to fill those spots. The FTC is a regulator created by Congress that enforces consumer protection measures and antitrust legislation. Its seats are typically comprised of 3 members of the president's party, 2 from the opposing party. Commissioners are appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. They serve 7-year terms that are staggered to prevent multiple vacancies at one time. And so now we have 2 vacancies at the same time. Shocking. And it was intentionally founded, right, to fight fraudsters and monopolists. So shocking that he has fired the only 2 Democratic members of the FTC so that he can now put 2 more loyalists on and have his way with it for the next 4 years.
So 2 years, right? Like we're going to say 2 years. But at that point, this is when are Democrats going to wake up and realize there's no bipartisan. As much as Donald Trump wants to say there's nothing I can do that would make Democrats happy, that is absolutely fucking false. And I would challenge any Donald Trump lover to come to me and show me an example of where he has tried to bring Democrats to the table so that we can work together to a joint resolution. That has never fucking happened. And I'm sorry. At the end of the day, you already had control of the FTC. You already had 3 versus 2.
3 members.
That's right.
Yeah.
So your control of the FTC was there. This is 100% symbolic and a show of my dick is small, so I'm going to show you this. Like 100%, this is me just like, oh yes, I can throw my power around. I can throw my weight around. How fucking annoying is that?
Yeah. Well, and we're worried, right, that if we had left the 2 Democrats on there, there would be leakers. There would be people out here in the streets talking about what really is happening at the FTC.
Because that's happened.
Right. And how do we keep that quiet? But any other way other than to remove them and make sure we put 2 more loyalists on. It's just fucking bananas.
It really is fucking bananas. You are not wrong with that. So, okay. Since we're talking about Democrats just momentarily, did you hear Nancy Pelosi kick Schumer's ass a little?
Oh. After he just like laid down and took it?
Yeah, she said.
No.
She took aim at the minority leader's move last week, accusing him of giving ground to Republicans without demanding anything in return. Her quote, "I myself don't give away anything for nothing."
Oof.
Schumer said a small group of other Democrats' decision to vote in favor of the continuing resolution has sparked backlash from members of their party who argued Democrats capitulated on key priorities. No fucking shit, you capitulated, you dumbass.
Yeah.
Schumer, however, has held firm, repeatedly asserting that a shutdown would have handed President Donald Trump and his allies an opening to continue gutting the federal bureaucracy. They don't need your help.
No, that's exactly right. Because you didn't stand up to them.
Right. What would have happened that hasn't happened already? Like, correct. I'm dying to know. What is the thing that you think you prevented? What's the thing that you think you're saving us from?
Yeah.
I'm dying to know. Because you told us that the Department of Education couldn't be dismantled without Congress approval. And
here we go.
Here we are. So what do you think you prevented?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a fucking cop-out. It's a cop-out. He acted like things are normal in our government. Mm-hmm. And they're not. Mm-hmm. And he needs to step down.
So I agree. I'm at the point that I think he needs to step down. He says no, and Nancy Pelosi is still saying no. He doesn't need to step down, but I am 100%. So I know that the Republican Party, and we talked about this last week, went through the process of like ingratiating itself with the Tea Party. I don't love comparing AOC and Bernie Sanders and the progressive politics that we all believe in, because I'd love to know, what does Schumer, what does Pelosi, what do these long-term Democrats disagree with Bernie Sanders and AOC, other than they don't want to take corporate money? Like, that to me is the big difference, is like, we don't want to take fucking bribes at the end of the day. Like that's what it
I don't want to be beholden to them.
That's right. Yep. That's right. So I have the hiccups now. This is what happens when I drink wine and podcast. I should not be allowed to do this, but regardless, this is the one major difference. Everything else, climate change, universal health care, all of the things that we believe in, a strong social security, a strong welfare net, whatever it is, pro-abortion, pro-choice, like all of these things are, I do not doubt that Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer also believe in. The literal only thing that differentiates, like, it used to, like, Tea Party politics and Republican politics were two separate things, right? Like the idea of dismantling the whole fucking government was never something that I heard like George Will talk about in, 10 years ago. Like I knew it was being fiscally conservative. I knew that it was like states' rights over federal rights. And we still see those policies, right? Like, let's send abortion to the states. Let's send the Department of Education to the states. And so those moves, honestly, I'm like, okay, I see where those at least fit into the Republican Party, but like, let's fire all the national park rangers. Like, that's insane. So let's fire the entire FAA. Like, that's insane.
Yes.
So this is where I'm like, there's a differentiation between just fundamental, like, I believe in this thing or I don't believe in this thing. Whereas I don't feel the Democrats are there. Literally, the only thing comes down to campaign finance reform. That's my opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. And I think, and it's just them refusing. I mean, just like McConnell, like refusing to give up power,
Yes.
And I mean, Bernie and AOC are burning it the fuck up in this country right now with their rallies. Like it's crazy town. And
I had a friend
it's
who was
exciting. Don't get me wrong, but
I had a
like
friend that was at the Arizona rally, and she posted pictures, and I mean, it looked like crazy town. The number of people that were there, I 100% agree. Like people are on fucking fire for sure.
Yeah, and it's because the Republicans are not doing town halls; they're refusing. And I mean, I listened to Pritzker, I think, governor of Illinois.
Yes.
Pritzker.
Yes.
So he did a thing. Yeah, a thing over the weekend, and he invited the Republican whoever who didn't show up because they're scared, but at the same time, they don't want to hear from their constituents. That's right. Care.
And the whole time he advocated for the Democrats have to take a progressive stance. This is the future of the party. This is where we're going. We have to embrace it. Like he clearly came out and said, this is where we're going. So I agree. I watched it. I thought it was great.
Yeah, and now, of course, the Republicans are trying to spin it as these are just paid Democratic actors that are upset. They're not real Republican voters.
But we know that's not true, right?
Yeah, no, 100% it's not true. Yeah.
Okay. I want to move on.
Yes.
Okay, this was something that I wasn't really super close to. Last week, we talked about the Venezuelan gang members that were deported to El Salvador. You brought up this week that there were some things that came out about those people, including that they don't have criminal records and a lot of them like didn't belong. So can you expand upon that before we go into the batshit crazy stuff that I want to talk about? But just talk about this El Salvador.
So the Trump administration came out on the 18th and admitted that many of the individuals sent to perform hard labor in El Salvador have no criminal record in the U.S. The administration... Right. The administration argued that the lack of it, this is what kills me, the lack of information of these individuals is enough to deny them due process. We don't have enough info on you. Out you go.
Right. Do you know where you get more info on people? During a goddamn trial. When you actually go through due process, that's when you learn about something. Right. Charge them with something and then let them bring forth evidence, and you bring forth evidence, and then you can look at all the stuff.
Yes. So then it said the only basis for deportation of many of them was a single rose tattoo.
Of course.
Among those deported without due process.
Because nobody has a rose tattoo. Yep.
Right. Are a tattoo artist who legally entered the U.S. while seeking asylum, a teen from Dallas who got a tattoo simply because he thought it was cool, and a 26-year-old man whose tattoos, according to his wife, have no connection to any gang. On 3/17, Acting Field Officer Director Robert Cerna of ICE stated, the lack of criminal record does not indicate they pose a limited threat. In fact, based upon their association with TDA, the lack of specific information about each individual actually highlights the risk they pose. It demonstrates that they are terrorists with regard to whom we lack a complete profile. In the meantime, we've sent women back, and we've sent back some individuals that El Salvador has said, holy shit, they shouldn't be here. They don't have any ties to this. And then there was also the Venezuelan soccer star.
Okay, tell us about the Venezuelan soccer star.
So ICE deported a Venezuelan soccer star who was tortured by Maduro's regime due to his speaking out against them when he was in his home country. His last name is Barrios. He had applied for asylum in the U.S., seeking refuge from the Venezuelan regime for alleged torture due to being critical of the government. Upon arrival in the U.S., he applied for asylum, but he was deported to El Salvador with the other deportees. ICE labeled him a gang member due to his tattoo of the Real Madrid logo. He's a professional soccer player. And a picture from his social media throwing devil horns. Under ICE policy...
I've done devil horns in this podcast. I've done devil horns like 15 minutes ago. I did devil horns in this podcast.
Under ICE policy, a person can be labeled a gang member if, this is insane to me, if any ICE officer determines they meet 2 gang membership identification criteria. So identifying markings, symbol, like symbolism,
social
like
media
all this
posts.
stuff.
Yep.
Because we've got the French journalist who was not allowed to come into the country. They sent her to an ICE facility last week, and she has a work visa. She was coming in to do reporting. They took her phone at the border. The agents at the airport took her phone, went through it, found anti-Trump stuff, and they sent her right to an ICE facility and have revoked her work visa and have now sent her back to France. I was reading stuff today. These foreign countries are telling their people, do not travel to the United States. We cannot protect you. If you get there and they take your phone and they look through it and they find anything that they don't like, they can send you to an ICE facility and we don't know if we can help you get out. What the fuck? What the fuck are we talking about?
This is straight out of Fascist Dictator Manual 101.
Yep.
To your point, you think you're going to get here, Customs is going to find that you have anti-Trump shit on your phone and send you back to France. You could end up in a concentration camp in El Salvador.
Right.
Is the reality.
Yes.
You might never have been to El Salvador. You might never have been to Venezuela. But if you have a rose tattoo and devil horns, you could end up at a concentration camp in El fucking Salvador. Like,
that's exactly
this is the reality that we are living in here now.
Yeah.
And to your point, like, oh, maybe a French reporter shouldn't have anti-Trump shit on their phone. Go fuck yourself. That is
Yeah, I mean, and Trump was saying last week that he thinks that we should send American citizens to El Salvador for torching these Tesla dealerships. Pam Bondi has warned Jasmine Crockett to watch her mouth when she's talking poorly about Elon Musk. Like, they're going to label these alleged arsonists of the Tesla dealerships as terrorists when this country has never officially named the Klan a terroristic group.
We have not identified the January 6th rioters as terrorists.
Correct.
As goddamn traitors.
Yeah.
Okay. Again.
Yeah.
Again, I will put it out to my Republican friend.
Yeah.
Where are you? Where are my libertarian? Where are my Republican? Don't tread on me. I believe in the Constitution, people. Are you fucking kidding me? This is constitutional rights of people that live in this country to be able to say what they want, whether they agree or disagree with the president.
That's right.
Whether they agree or disagree with the government. Where are you? Where are you?
This is why our country was founded. We
100%.
Literally were fighting a fucking king.
100,000%. For exactly this reason. Go get your Ouija board out and go ask George Washington. Go ask Thomas Jefferson. Go have a conversation. Hamilton. That's right. Go watch fucking Hamilton and find out why we were fighting against King George. It was because he was trying to force all of us to agree with what he said, do what he said, and if you didn't do what he said, he cut your fucking head off. That is what is fucking happening. And let me tell you, I would rather have my head cut off than to go to a goddamn concentration camp. Like, clearly, I have a podcast that is going against Donald Trump. If given the option, that is what I would choose because I really don't fucking want to go to a concentration camp. It sounds horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. On that depressing note, I want to take a moment. So we had a guest contributor who sent us a story today that neither Nicole or I had been watching, but of course, since then we've seen multiple posts on our social media about this, where our esteemed leaders in our intelligence agencies sent a text that had a whole bunch of information about bombing Yemen, including the names of the planes that were bombing Yemen that were sent to a reporter in the Atlantic before we bombed Yemen.
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite part of today is getting on Hillary Clinton's Facebook page. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? You have got to be kidding me. This is Hillary Trump. I don't know
The
if you
Trump
can see it.
administration accidentally texted
There
me
it
its war
is.
plans. Yeah, you've got to be kidding me. Oh my god, I love
That's
it.
right.
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
got to be
And
kidding
Mayor
me.
Pete tweeted out that. Oh, hold on. I have to read now that we're gonna share it. I got to find it because I'm not on the Twitter or X or
The
whatever the
twatter.
fuck
So
we call it.
I'm still
But
so at my age, I really focus on Facebook. That's where I shine. Is
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
But yeah, to your point. Yeah.
I've never been on it, but I follow Mayor Pete Buttigieg
Oh.
on Facebook. So he reposted to his Facebook his twatter. So he said today's news of an astonishing security failure at the White House from an operational security perspective is the highest level of fuck up imaginable. These people cannot keep America safe.
That's right. And so I know that in general, like we try and steer clear of wildly political skews.
Mm-hmm.
But to be honest, like we were hearing stories of where like I say like a lot when I'm drinking, so I should watch that. I apologize. Anyway, we heard a lot of stories about, oh, we didn't do that. That was someone else. Someone else posted. Not one of us did it.
Mm-hmm.
But I have
Mm-hmm.
seen in the last, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes that everyone's like, no, it's been confirmed. It was
Yeah.
a Trump intelligence agency that tweeted out a bunch of top secret information to everyone. So that's fun.
Good old Hegseth.
I know.
I'm sure he was drunk when he accidentally added the reporter to the group chat.
You know.
And here's the kicker. The guy was on MSNBC Tonight talking about it, and he was refusing to give up some information because he didn't want to give detailed security secrets, right? But he was giving the information in a way that he could without divulging a lot of sensitive material. But he said he took himself out of the group chat.
Oh, stop.
He took himself out of the fucking group chat.
I didn't read that. Girl.
Mm-hmm. He said it tonight.
I love the fact that our reporters, so this is why we have a free journalism.
Why we're supposed to.
That's right. Yep. We have a free news organization. Like everyone should have access to everything and it should all be free, is because our journalists care more about our security than our intelligence community that was just appointed by Trump.
Because if this had been Fox News, we would have never known it happened.
Absolutely.
They would have sent a private text and said,
absolutely,
oh my God, you added me to this chat and I shouldn't have been. And that would have been the end of it.
The best response. Sorry.
Oh.
The best response I heard was from a senior U.S. official that reacted to the reporting with, "Dear sweet baby Jesus." Like, yep, that's the appropriate response.
Did you and our favorite follower back? And I just said, like, I mean, surely we're going to hear that he's resigning by the end of the day, right? Like, resignation by EOD, right? Like, what else could we expect? Oh, I'm so silly.
Right. Hegseth swears nobody was texting war planes, and that's all I have to say about that. When asked why those details were inadvertently shared with Goldberg after landing at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickman in Hawaii, the defense secretary also took jabs at the journalist who he described as deceitful and highly discredited. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, okay, but he should be fucking fired.
But this is the same, Hegseth is the same man that on Friday invited Musk to the fucking Pentagon to allow him to sit in on a meeting about our potential war plans with China. And when that shit leaked out last Thursday, they were so outraged. And Musk is on X saying this is not true, and this leaker will be found, and this leaker will be prosecuted. Okay, well, you can't prosecute somebody for something that's not true. So is it true or is it not? Because the reality is you did go to the Pentagon on Friday for a top secret meeting. You are not an elected official. You are not part of the defense. Official. You are not part of the defense community. Like, I don't even know what to say. Yes. You know what I mean? Because it's just so fucking mind-boggling to me that these motherfuckers are running our government.
I mean, at this point, we're going to get bombed any day. I don't know why you're not drinking.
I hope I should be. I hope to God that if when it's incoming, they somehow find my phone and are like, "Yep, right here," because I don't
I just can't manage this anymore. I'm with you there. Okay, well, we are rounding out the end of our podcast. To your point, this is absolutely 100% on Pete Hegseth. He should be embarrassed. He should step down. I mean, unless like this is a moment when you have to go to your boss and be like, okay, I have to admit to you I'm an addict, and so you need to get me on some type of like special something or other. Otherwise, you're just a colossal fuck up and you deserve to get fired. We missed so here's the one other thing that I want to talk about with this. We talked last week that Trump could be a KGB spy. At the end of the day, there's only one explanation for like sharing highly detailed security clearance required messages. And is
information.
Pete Hegseth just a patsy in the Trump KGB connection? Just putting that out there.
At this fucking point, anything is possible. Quite honestly.
I mean, it's a possibility, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Okay. Hold on one second because I've got there you are. Okay. Sorry, my audio was delayed. Okay. Next time, I want to talk a little bit, if we can try and remember. So the U.S. Postal Service, they had a conversation about privatizing the U.S. Postal Service. We still have the Joe Biden auto pin that we haven't discussed today, but we're approaching an hour. We also have not discussed the Minnesota senator that proposed a bill about Trump derangement syndrome, who at this point has been arrested for soliciting a minor. So those are all things that we may bring up.
Shocking.
With all that said, there's been so much shit that's coming so quickly. Right. That who knows? Who knows if we'll have time to address it next week. But if not, those are all headlines that you can go research yourself. With that said, I watched an interview with the New Yorker editor and Jon Stewart this week. It was from several weeks ago, but the message rang true that the New Yorker is doing everything it can to report out on anything it can report out on. A lot of us have Trump derangement syndrome, maybe. I don't know. Let's read more about it. But we all hate Trump and we all are struggling with the news that's coming out very hot and heavy. With that, a lot of people have said, you know what? I just can't do it. I can't do news. I can't do whatever. I just can't do this. I can't know about the things that are happening in our world. And the one thing that this editor from the New Yorker said is that totally understand that you may feel that way. That is a perfectly acceptable feeling to have. But if you refuse to educate yourself and at least be in the know, you become part of the problem, which is the apathetic, I don't know what's happening, that population of our community. So for anyone that actually watches us, listens to us, likes us, dislikes us, comments, participates in this at all, like when you ask, what can I do? This is what Nicole and I said we could do. This is the thing. We're like, you know what? Let's have a podcast where we talk about the absolute ape shit crazy shit we're seeing, and we can at least express our, ape shit craziness. If they come for us, we're going to be on the list. Like, we know that. We're putting out that. We get it. And we know not everyone is willing to take that chance. But if you're at least listening, to this podcast or other podcasts, if you're at least reading articles, if you're at least educating yourself on what's happening, then you are becoming part of the solution. And we applaud you. We appreciate you. Yes. We want you to know that, we care about you, and we know that this is hard. It's hard right now to listen to everything that's going on. It's hard. Right. So we appreciate that. With that said, if you know other people that you want to annoy, feel free to send them our podcast, because we love to annoy people. With that said, if you also know people that might be like-minded and would be interested in what we have to say, then also send them our podcast. Like, subscribe, please do what you can to support our channel. We really appreciate it. And if you have any comments that you would like for us to speak on, let us know. We are happy to do so. Our last podcast did get 2 comments.
Did it really? See,
it did.
I
know. I just found that out now because it only happened 14 hours ago.
Although if in all fairness, I was watching what podcast? My Dax Shepard podcast that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
and they do not respond to comments.
Okay,
Monica will not respond because she said like because of course the kind of comments that they're getting comments all across the board, but like it's too much of a spiral for both of them and especially for Dax when they get hate comments and things like that, and then it just like responding back in the day just made it worse. So I want to respond, but I think it's going to depend on like I told you I was going to take that on of like responding.
Context. I agree. To your point, I got to be honest. If a Trumper gets on and starts commenting, it just fuels the fire.
A rage.
Because at the end of the day, like they're commenting on my political beliefs. They're not they're not commenting on my like personal whatever. So all day long. But to your point, when it becomes personal, that's when I 100% believe that we should not like respond.
Yeah.
So totally get it. Okay. Like, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you all for joining. Good night.
Yes. Good night.